So let's talk about all the different types of targeting available to you for your YouTube ads. So let's run through the list here. First of all, audiences. You have in-market, custom intent, life events, affinity, custom affinity, detailed demographics, remarketing, and similar audiences. And we will jump in the interface and run through all these and talk about them in a little more detail. You also have contextual type targeting where you have placements, keywords, and topics. And you also have demographics and the device. So let's jump in the interface and actually walk through these. So when you're creating a campaign, you can scroll down and you can look at your targeting here. So let's first start off by talking about audiences and running through all of these. Now, one practice that I like to do is I spend a lot of time looking at what's available within the targeting. So, what you can do is simply um, even if you're not creating a campaign, if you're not setting up a campaign at that moment, but you're just doing your research and you're planning and you're deciding on what type of campaigns you want to set up, you really need to look through here and see what's available to you because I'm not going to cover everything. Things could change over time. They could add things, take things away. Where you're really going to get familiar is getting in your interface and hitting create a campaign and come here and look at the settings. Then if you don't want to save these campaigns, if you're not ready for that, you can actually just go and cancel and it's not going to create a campaign. But well worth your time to come spend some time looking at these settings. So let's talk about audiences. Let's just run through the list here. So detailed demographics, who they are. You can do, you know, parental status, marital status, education. So this is just more detailed information about who the person is. Maybe you're wanting to target, you're selling a product that's only going to appeal to people who actually own their home. That might be something you want to include there, right? So you can include that. So this is just detailed demographics on who they are. It's pretty straightforward. Well, let's go back here. So let's talk about these two. They're closely related, affinity and custom affinity. So this is a category where someone has a long-term interest in this topic, and I'll steal this analogy or this description from the famed John Belcher. He's the one that taught me this. So affinity would be like if you have someone who is a football fan and they're constantly looking up football scores. And Google knows that. You're constantly going to certain websites looking up football scores. You have an affinity for that. That's something that you regularly do. You have an ongoing interest, and that is a behavior that Google has recognized. So you can come in here and look through all of the different stuff. Beauty mavens. Maybe you're watching a lot of beauty videos on YouTube, like my daughter has done a lot. Home and garden, do-it-yourselfers. So they're adding you into these categories. Avid news readers. You're constantly getting on websites, reading about all the crazy stuff going in politics. You're logging a lot of time in doing that. So that is stuff that you have an affinity for. So why I recommend to come in and look at these audiences, we're all marketing different products. And if you can find something that that aligns very closely, to something that you're promoting, you know, if you're in the beauty industry, this could be a great category for you because maybe you're targeting people who they're, buying a lot of makeup, right? This could align just like a glove for you. Um, you may know something else about your avatar, like in the investing, trading niche. These people they keep up with the news a lot, so they're avid business news readers. But you would not know that unless you came in here and actually started scoping things out. And the other thing you can actually do too, in narrowing your audience down, is you're going to see how many impressions are available, right? And that's going to change as you start jumping into demographics. So let's say if you take out all the females, that cut it down by a lot. You start taking away age groups. So I like to get an idea of how big certain audiences are. So I will come in here when I'm doing my planning. So that is Affinity, and these are stock audiences that Google collects information on. Well, what happens if you think you could do maybe a better job by narrowing it down even more, or maybe you just don't see anything you're exactly happy with? That's where you get into Google's custom audiences, like custom affinity. Oops. And that is something you actually have to build on your own. I'm going to name it, give it a description, and Google pretty much tells you what to do here. So enter at least 5 items for interest, URLs, places, or apps. You could enter apps here, right? If you wanted to, you just choose what you're going to enter. For investing, you could be inserting investing websites like Kiplingers.com. And you're going to start adding in more. So Barons.com. And Google pretty much just tells you what to do here. And then see if it'll give an estimate. That's probably not enough data. Okay, so that's a lot. It's going to give you a little bit of information there, who's falling into this audience, right? More male dominated, all that makes sense. It's kind of interesting. It's got a younger age group. But this is where you would come and create these audiences. This is going to come down to your research and knowledge of your niche. So let's go back and work our way through these different types of audiences. So let's see, in market, what they are actually actively researching or planning. So I will also take this information from John Belcher. So if affinity, or take this description from John Belcher. So if affinity is stuff that they're regularly doing, they're known for looking up football scores. In market is something that is atypical behavior. Let's say myself, for example, I've gone for months and months, and I'm not researching cars or anything like that. I'm not researching buying a car. Then all of a sudden, I start researching about a Nissan lease. Well, Google has taken that information that I am now in market, as I am actively researching car leases. And if you do that, you're going to notice that you start getting served those ads, right? You're researching a Nissan lease, let's say, for example. Well, guess what? You're going to start seeing ads, because you've now fallen in that in-market category. You may see an ad that says, "Hey, consider buying a Mazda," and that they're probably advertising to you through an in-market audience. Right? So this is another one where you need to come through and find out what they're in market for. Let's say, and with vehicles, maybe you're in market for a bicycle. No, those are other vehicles. Motor vehicles by brand. So let's say if you were in market for a Nissan, I might want to run ads, of course, for my Nissan dealership, or maybe I might want to run something to you that says, "Hey, buy a Mazda." Might not make as much sense if you were in market for a a BMW or an Audi, then I'm going to show you kind of a lower ticket brand, right? So they know what you are in market for, and there are a lot of things here, and you may find something that is going to fit like a glove that already exists within Google's in market audience. Let's say if you have a makeup and cosmetics brand, you can find people who are in market to purchase. And I would say that Google's even honing in on keywords that have purchase intent. They're trying to decide that people are in market for something. All kinds of stuff here. You've even got dating services. So, sports and fitness, another good example. I believe I was telling you on another module that in our financial audiences, sometimes these people are in market for golf equipment. Kind of makes sense. And retirement age, men, so you can find some interesting things there. Maybe you sell golf equipment or a golf informational product. This could be a good audience for you to target. You just have to come in here and research and scope through everything that could be of interest to you and plan out your campaigns. Let's see. So custom intent is closely related to that, except instead of it just being a stock one built into Google, very much like the custom affinity, that you are going to have to add in your search terms. And Google's going to tell you right here what it's all about, right? Add at least 50 keywords. This is what Google recommends. They recommend to use their keyword planner. Of course, we have other tools at our disposal. We also use SEMrush. Google will start recommending things. So golf clubs. Usually after you add a few, they'll start recommending more. They're wanting about 50 of these, but this is also people who are in market, but you're custom building this. Let's go back. Another one is life events. So this is all around the theme of people are looking for something new. They're in market to buy something. Some change is happening. This is stuff that kind of puts them in a state of looking for something new or change. So they've grouped life events in here as well. So, this could be interesting to some people. Recently started a business, you're starting a business soon. Retirement, sometimes we like to target this one too. Again, the older crowd, they're retiring soon. Maybe they're behind on saving up for their retirement, and they're starting to think about that. So they know we know they're retiring soon. So this has been an audience that's been successful for us as well. So let's go back here. That covers those. So you're remarketing in similar audiences. These are audiences that you have to build in Google. So let's say this goes back to creating your tracking tags. Let's say that you were collecting leads, right? And then you're going to show them a video sales letter, right? I can remarket to all leads, right? I can create a remarketing list because, maybe they became a lead, but they haven't converted yet. So I can show the sales letter to them. So that would be your remarketing list. And I'll show you another setting how you can kind of refine that more. Let's see. Similar audiences, Google automatically creates these. So when you, let's say, you have a tracking tag on your buyers, or you're importing conversions, or whatever you're doing, Google is creating a audience similar to that. You don't have to do it. You just have to create a remarketing list, and they are going to create similar audiences. Now, for myself, I have not had much success with these any more so than just, custom intent audiences or this straight up stock audiences out of Google. At this point, Point of recording this, it is not on the same level as Facebook. I've heard other people say they've had pretty decent success with it. Again, it's all about testing. Um, so um, Google creates those for you automatically. Let's see. That's remarketing and similar audiences. You can create combined audiences. I won't get into this. This is just something you can explore. But within Google, though, you can also create, let's say, you can create audiences based on someone's become a lead, but they have not bought. So you would need to create, you would go in and you would create the audience of leads, and then you would exclude the people who have already bought. So that's just a general overview of your targeting settings. And again, really the way you get a grasp of this and what's available to you is you come in here like you're going to build a campaign, and you look through these and you use it for your planning, and you become aware. And let's say if you're doing a custom affinity audience, add in your keywords, see how many impressions are available. You may think you're onto something really good, but there's barely any impressions available. So things like that. That's why you want to come in and really explore this as you're doing your planning. I do it all the time. So let's get into the more ways to target here outside of audiences. You can also target by content, where you want your ads to show. So this is contextual. You're not targeting necessarily the person based on their traits, but you're targeting content. So keywords, you're just going to come in here and add a list of keywords. Right, whatever you're trying to target. So let's say if you're targeting, if you're doing golf, swing. I don't know a lot about golf, so 9 iron, whatever you may be doing here. Golf tutorial, improve golf swing. Again, you'd really have to know the niche. You could probably come up with hundreds of keywords. So that is going to be contextual for YouTube. I haven't verified this. I should probably ask more about it, but I believe they're pulling this information from the meta descriptions, but also YouTube does a really good job of auto transcribing videos. Some of the videos for the brands that we operate, I was looking at the transcriptions and we didn't touch them and they were flawless. So I could look through these content videos and see where we're talking about trailing stop, in the stock market, or best stock to buy today, or TSLA, which would be Tesla stock. So it's picking all the stuff up in the transcription. I'm assuming, I could be wrong here, but I'm assuming that Google is using that to also target, because when we use keywords, it does a pretty good job of honing in. So that is another way you can target. And again, this falls under contextual. So topics would be, what type of topic category do they fall under? So if I'm looking, I don't use topics as much anymore. We kind of stick to audiences. That's not really a recommendation. It just depends on your niche, and lots of testing, what you're starting to see trends around working or not. So let's say, investing, brokerages, and day trading, right? That is the topic category that it's going to fall under. And another is placements. So placements, you can put specific video URLs. There are tools out there that will help you scrape for URLs. You can place them on certain channels. Getting more into like Google Display and stuff, there are options for websites or apps and things like that. Video lineups is something I've never messed with. I honestly tend to not use placements because, um, and again, you have to do your own testing and figure out your own style and what you like. But within Google Ads, a kind of an ongoing frustration is that you can create campaigns and the ads will have a hard time serving. So placements tends to be much more granular that you would have to get a lot of placements, right? And to me, I'm looking to scale campaigns as large as I can. So I like to go after larger audiences. Like if I'm starting to have success with a campaign, I don't want one sale every 3 days and my ad's barely serving. I want to be able to scale up to hopefully hundreds of sales per day. So it's just something I choose to overlook. Doesn't mean you have to, but if you do a bunch of URL placements, you might find that you're hyper targeted. You're just not getting the impressions that you want. Again, it's up to you if you have the time to sit and do this and test. But this is where you would go to do that. So, last but not least, we will take a look at demographics. Talk about this a little more in depth. So, it's really pretty basic. Male, female, unknown. So Google just does not have that data. They have all the age groups here, unknown. They do not have that data. Are they a parent or not? I kind of think this means, some people, they might technically be parents, but their kids are grown and out of the house because we have our stuff convert really well to these people. And I would assume at such a large quantity, they probably have kids, but they're out of the house. So that's available to you. And this one can be an extremely important targeting option depending on what your needs are. I tend to just target the whole spectrum because of the products we sell are fairly affordable on the entry level. But if let's say if you're selling some type of high ticket thing that let's say it's some type of mastermind that's $20,000 a year and you're doing a phone application funnel, you may not want to be sending leads that fall in the lower income bracket because maybe they will not convert. Or maybe they become leads and you get them on the phone, they just don't have money. So you can target by what income bracket they're in. This is not available in all countries, and Google will tell you that, but it is just an option that you have. So those are all the forms of targeting. And there are no shortcuts or questions that you can ask that kind of get you out of just coming in here, getting very familiar, doing a lot of testing. What works in my niche may not work in your niche, and vice versa. It depends on the content videos out there. Niches can behave extremely differently. So what I would advise you to do is just test a lot, become familiar, and find out what are some of the top ways to target people in your niche. Start based on what you know, and then just learn more as you test. Two things I started to leave off, but these actually should fall in targeting. I just didn't think of them that way at first, but took it for granted. But of course, your location, I feel like that's a type of targeting. Most of the time, we're in the United States, but you can enter in any other location. So that would be a type of targeting, and then also targeting people based on their device, which right now it's under additional settings. You can either show on everything or set specific targeting for devices. I typically am going to advertise to everyone on a device because they have an option to click. TV screens is something I have just not tested. I've wanted to, but I just haven't ever had to climb that high up the tree to test that. I'm just too busy testing other stuff and scaling campaigns, which is within your typical handheld devices. So what I'm usually going to do is come here and get rid of TVs. Doesn't mean that it wouldn't work. I would love to hear from anyone who's having success on TVs. and any type of methodology where maybe you're sending them to a URL or whatever would be the best way. This is typically something that we don't do. But in thinking about your targeting, devices is another. Um, this is something right here that I don't mess with. So this is advanced targeting. If you want to choose the OS, device models, does it matter? Maybe if you're doing apps or something like that, does it matter to you what type of device they're on? Networks, are they on Wi-Fi or are they on a certain phone network? I've seen this brought up before in the ad skills community. Um, I don't use it, but that doesn't mean someone else doesn't have a need for it. But there it is if you need it.